Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Slick Wang, and I'm here to teach you how to do some ore quintupling through Mekanism. If you're following me on the Crack Pack Let's Play, you will have seen me put this system together. However, it took me a while to put that system together, and it probably took me even longer to figure out exactly how to do it and how to make it work. Part of that, I don't feel like I couldn't find any tutorials or anything like that that felt easy to follow for me. There are some out there, and I'm not going to discredit anybody who's made one of those. It just wasn't easy to follow for me. So I wanted to put this together because I have to imagine some other people out there, you guys gotta feel the same way. Now, since you're most likely going to be doing this in a survival world, I'm going to build this in the order that I feel you should build it in a survival world. So the first thing I think you should build is going to be this salination plant. To do this, you're going to need salination blocks. Now, the recipes I'm going to show, and I'm probably going to skip a few of them, is because I'm playing this and I'm setting this up on the Crack Pack mod pack. So not all the recipes are going to be the same. It's going to differ. Odds are, whatever you're doing, you're using NEI, so keep using that. So salination block. To get one salination block, you need one of these dynamic tanks and surround it by copper. These dynamic tanks, relatively cheap. Some steel surrounding cobblestone. So this structure is expensive. It's relatively, yeah, it's pretty dang expensive. Now, the salination plant, if you're going to do this, I recommend you go for the maximum height. I don't recall the minimum height. You can check the wiki if you like. I believe minimum height is 4. Maximum height is 18, so we have 2 right now, and I'm going to use the creative builder's wand because this thing will just automatically build stuff for us. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So that is a very large structure. Now, maximum efficiency, build this thing, well, if you're not going to other places, maximum efficiency, put it in a desert biome. However, for true maximum efficiency, put this thing in the promised land from biomes of plenty, because it's always daylight there, and this thing only operates during the day. So now we have this large structure. We're going to knock out the top 4 corners, and we're going to put these advanced solar generators. These are fairly costly, but I'm going to say much less costly compared to building all these salination blocks. You don't actually have to rotate these. I do it mostly as a aesthetic thing. It drives me nuts. You're also going to need, on this top level, a salination controller. Now once you've got that part built, I went ahead and I started setting up for our fluid incoming and outgoing. So you're going to need, I recommend, 2 salination valves on your structure. One for input, one for output. You can get away with just one, but it causes, you got to like break stuff and do all that to operate. So it's kind of a mess. So there's not a lot of reason to use just one. So we are going to input here. Let's use some aqueous accumulators from thermal expansion. And we're going to need some fluid ducts. Come on, there you go. Wonderful. And let's just go ahead and go like that. So we got 2 of those little guys pumping in. Now, I already did this, unfortunately, because I ran into a little technical difficulty. We have also a liquid transfer node attached to this thing. You could also use fluid ducts, same as what we've got going on here, if you wanted. And this little guy is pumping out brine, and you can see that little drum filling up. Now, one thing that I did off camera that you guys didn't see is when you come up here, after you've got your valves and everything in, the last step to building this salination plant is to come up here to the salination controller, and you're going to click salination plant. Before it would say like unrecognized. In fact, let's break that. Yeah, there we go. So you guys can tell. Incomplete, height of 0, multiplier 0, max of 0. So this thing doesn't know that it's a structure. You can click salination plant when you're ready. Boom, and it held all of its heat and stuff from when we were doing it. So you're going to have it say structured. You're going to have the height, which for us is going to be 18. That's the max height. I don't recall the minimum. Your multiplier, 2.0. That is a multiplier based on the biome that we're in. Now we're in a desert biome. I believe 2 is the maximum multiplier you could get. Now, as long as you don't have, like, let's say biomes aplenty where you can go to the promised land, desert biome going to be your best bet. Gives you multiplier 2.0, which means your heat's going to go up pretty high. This thing's going to just tear through water and brine, and it's going to have you set up. If you can go into the promised land, however, that might be even better because it is always day in the promised land. So a little sacrifice on the multiplier, however, it is always daytime. So that is the first thing I feel you should be building, is this salination plant. And we built everything using crossover pipes for some reason. So we'll let this fill up, and we will begin work on the next part of this module. Okay, we have brine. Wonderful. So what does that do for us? Well, using the drums, we are going to pump out the bottom here. If you're using a different storage method, do whatever it is that you need to do for those. You might even want to just pump this directly into the machine we're going to set up. So we have that pumping out. I'm going to have it pumping out right here. Now we are also going to set up a little power system, because all of this is going to pump right here into an electrolytic separator. Now it's starting to fill up, however it's not doing anything here because we haven't given it any power. Boom, voila. Now it is going to take the brine and it is going to make hydrogen. You'll see this slowly filling up, and it is going to make chlorine. Well, what do we do with all that? Well, the very next thing we are going to do is we are going to put those into a chemical infuser. We're going to use these pressurized pipes because they can carry gas. Boom. And boom. Now remember, these things are all very side specific. So this chemical infuser, he wants to input from the two sides, and he's going to output out this side. They're very side specific, just like electrolytic separator. He's going to put out that side and that side. So that part, fairly important. Now this method that I'm going to show you here, it's much different than what I did in the crack pack. Main reason for that, the crack pack mod pack has some other ways of obtaining sulfur. This little step right here that I'm showing you can be skipped if you're doing a mod pack that has an easy method of getting sulfur. So for example, I have some creeper spawners right here. In the crack pack, creepers drop sulfur. So what you could do is actually set up a creeper spawner killing system. But I'm going to show you how to get this stuff without having any other mods installed. Ignore the thermal expansion when I say other mods. What you need to do is you need to get some of that brine coming off of your electrolytic separator. That's also going to need to get separated out again. Over here we have brine. There we go. So you probably would just want to branch off of the first module to do this, because again, hydrogen chloride. Now we are going to take that hydrogen chloride off, and we are going to set it up here onto our chemical injection chamber. That will fill up, and we need to provide him with a little bit of power. Let's go ahead and just throw this because we can. Wonderful. Fill that in. Okay, so this little guy has plenty of power, all that fun stuff. Now the next thing you're going to want is going to be gunpowder, and this is how you make sulfur through Mekanism. So your hydrogen chloride, give it gunpowder, it will then sit and work to make sulfur. Beautiful. Now the very next step, what are we going to do with this sulfur? Well, we're going to oxidize it. And to oxidize it, we're going to make this lovely little guy, the chemical oxidizer. Go ahead and put him down with a little bit of power, and we actually need a pneumatic servo here. If you put these blocks directly next to each other in his wonderful configuration over here, we should have this auto eject button. We're going to go ahead and turn that on. If they're right next to each other, you can actually skip this step that we're doing with installing the pneumatic servo. Go ahead, come over here and turn that off, and the sulfur will start flowing. And this little guy is going to oxidize. Surprisingly enough, does not need oxygen as an input, but it will just create sulfur dioxide, which you can see there when we turn NEI off. Wonderful. So sulfur dioxide then needs to come over here. Let's go ahead and put a pressurized tube down, and let's pull a little bit more off of here. You're going to need another electrolytic separator. And let's go ahead, we're just going to throw a creative tank on top of him, that way we don't have to mess with the piping and all that fun stuff, and fill him with water. Great. So this little guy is going to produce hydrogen and oxygen. Now we are going to go ahead and just dump the hydrogen. Now in your system you may want to salvage that hydrogen, put it into a generator, something like that, get a little more bang for your buck. I don't always recommend that because you can completely block your system because the hydrogen won't have anywhere to go. So oxygen putting out on that side. Great. That's going to come on up, and we're going to put yet another chemical infuser. So this is going to take sulfur dioxide and oxygen, turn it into sulfur trioxide. Excellent. So this lovely little thing I've modified with a creative storage box. Just that way, for our next step, we will be sure to have plenty of sulfur dust, and we're not waiting for this. This is basically, consider this module 2. So this is the second module that you need, and this is the setup that's going to allow you to have ore quintupling. So let's move on and show you how these two modules connect. The next step in integrating this sulfur trioxide is going to be to combine it with water vapor. Now for that we're going to need to put this rotary condensentrator. Now the rotary condensentrator is a block that's going to turn a liquid into a gas or a gas into a liquid. So if you watched my my Let's Play series, I actually turned this into liquid to transport it more easily. However, for this, really all we need to do is we need to turn water into water vapor. So we are going to head and put a fluid duct here. We'll put a creative water tank here. Obviously you won't have these in your survival series, but that is going to pump water in. He is going to do nothing, as you can see. I forgot to show you this step. This guy can turn gas into water or water into gas. Now when you put him down, I believe he actually starts as a default condensentrating, so he's going to condense gas into a liquid. We want to go ahead and click this toggle operation, and it will now fill with water and start creating water vapor. Now that water vapor we need to take off with a pressurized tube. Pressurized tube is going to come over here to a chemical infuser, where we will be infusing water vapor with the sulfur trioxide, as you can see here, and we are making sulfuric acid. This is the stuff that's actually going to cook down our ores. So let's go ahead and pull him off just like that. Now the next step is to take the sulfur trioxide and we are going to put it into a chemical dissolution chamber. Now the way that we are piping things, we are bringing all of our stuff over here in from the right. All of these blocks are side specific, so you see nothing is happening here just yet. That is because all these blocks are actually set to go from left to right, so you could string these along from left to right and they work just fine, with the exception of the blocks like this. They have a configurable input and output. However, these ones do not, nor do chemical infusers and stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead, give that thing a couple whacks with our wrench, and we should now see it filling with sulfuric acid. Now we're going to go ahead, this is where you actually input all of your ores. So if you wanted to put some item ducts, this would be the place to put it. Now let's go ahead and put 1 gold ore in here. Wonderful. 1 gold ore made 1,000 of this gold slurry. This is a liquid. Now for some reason fluiducts do not want to connect to this, so we are going to string these blocks together exactly how they need to go. Now the very next step, because we have this gold slurry, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put it into a chemical washer. Now again, side specific block, defaulting going from left to right. However, we're going from right to left, so we need to turn it around. That would be the first place I would look if you guys are trying to set up the system and you're seeing stuff isn't moving. Check that first. That's the one mistake I think a lot of people make very, very easily. So this little guy now has gold slurry. Now the next thing he's going to need, go ahead and get rid of that sand. Let's go ahead and put a creative tank. Now fluiducts will connect to this guy. Let's go ahead and do that just to illustrate it for you. Whoops, forgot I didn't have my jetpack. Boom, and let's put water in him. Now whack that. Wonderful. So this little guy is going to take all the water you can give it, and it's going to turn this gold slurry into a clean gold slurry. Wonderful. Okay, so we have this liquid gold that's nice and clean. What do we do with it? Well, we need to crystallize it. So we are going to take a chemical crystallizer, put that down, again going from left to right by default, so let's turn it around, side specific block, and you'll see it start to spin up. Now you'll watch here, this clean gold slurry is going to turn into gold crystals. Now you might note it took 200 millibuckets of that gold slurry and turned it into a crystal. Excellent. So we are officially quintupling our ores. Okay, so we have these crystals. What do we do with them? Well, this is the fun part where we actually get to link up our 2 modules. So over here, consider this a module to make sulfuric acid, and consider this a module to create hydrogen chloride. Now I've gone ahead and I just piped our hydrogen chloride on down over here, and we are going to move, whoops, with pressurized tubes, not item ducts as I was attempting, and we are going to put down a chemical injection chamber. Make sure you provide him with power and your hydrogen chloride is coming to him. Now I actually spent some time. I cannot seem to get this thing to auto eject. It is a little finicky. You might have to play around with it. I got it working in my survival Let's Play series. However, I just can't seem to get it to work here. So these these crystals should come over here and get put right there. That's the way that it should work. I'll make sure to update the description down below if I figure out how to make this happen. So it's going to turn these crystals into lovely little shards. Well, what do we do with the shards? I'll show you. So here's another setup with another electrolytic separator. These things are all over the place. If you really plan your stuff out, you might actually be able to link all these together so you need fewer of them and you're wasting less gas. I have not planned out that well, and in fact let's move this forward one more. Okay, so another side-specific block. For us, we're going to be outputting it outputs out the right. So basically the red tank for oxygen. Give this guy a little whack, and he should be generating hydrogen and oxygen. We're going to go ahead and dump the hydrogen. Beautiful. Now that little guy is going to be putting stuff into a purification chamber. So we are going to purify our shards. There we go. You do need to mess around with the configuration in here. A lot of these seem to pull down from the top, at least for me. That may just actually be a holdover from my survival world. I'm not sure how all that works. But make sure you're checking the configuration in all of these. So this little guy is taking oxygen, and he's going to purify the shards into clumps. From here on out, you pretty much need nothing other than power, because the next step in this is going to be the crusher and an enrichment chamber. So again, make sure we're checking over here. Red input from there, auto eject, whoops. Red off, auto eject. Great. And we want to set this guy to auto eject. So our clumps now shoot over here into the crusher where they get crushed. And when they get crushed, they turn into dirty gold dust. So our crusher is crushing, and he's creating this dirty gold dust. So the next step in that is going to be an enrichment chamber. Now the enrichment chamber, again, checking your configuration from the red. Wonderful. Now he is going to turn this dirty gold dust into lovely gold dust. So what do we do with that? Well, here is the very last step in the process, which is going to be an energetic smelter. And the energetic smelter also needs power, which we need to make sure we run over here. Energetic smelter. Again, checking your configuration. Input over here. Make sure this guy is set, which he is, to auto eject. And our energized smelter turns them into ingots. So there you have ore quintupling. We went from one single ore over here to 5, well, soon to be ingots. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. If I have a lot of the same questions that I see over some time, I might just redo this just in case I missed anything. This is basically my first tutorial. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.